Awesome. Yeah, we're really glad to have you on. Really excited to see you and your team building on Avalanche. And so we're just going to have a nice chat about, what Anchor's doing. Talk a little bit about the product offerings, the Anchor bonds, and then maybe just cover what Avalanche is like to build on and how it's different from the other chains. So,
Yeah, sure.
so let's just jump right into it. Really excited to have you. So we have a good crowd going as well. Can you just share a little bit about like yourself and your own journey for us?
Yeah, sure. I personally have more like a financial professional background. So I worked more than 8 years in wealth management as investment advisor. And I started my crypto journey about 4 years ago as many of us, right, as community member and investing in crypto on my own and trying to understand crypto and DeFi. And since end of last year, I started to dig in a little bit more into DeFi. Uh, and yeah, then I realized very quickly that it was difficult to keep up with my banking day job and in the evening studying about DeFi until like very late in the evening. And it was just like so interesting. So at some point, I decided actually in May of this year to leave my job in banking, and yeah, literally 2 days after, I actually got an offer from Ankr to join the team and to lead Ankr StakeFi, which is their liquid staking product line, right? And yeah, so it's been really very exciting to yeah, to really be fully dedicated to DeFi and make uh, yeah, basically building new products that can have some very nice utility for crypto users.
That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, I'm glad to see that you made that switch from traditional finance into DeFi, and this term StakeFi is really cool. The liquid staking, it's really powerful. For those not familiar, that right now when you stake your Avox, it's kind of locked up for a certain period of time. You can't touch it, but these products that teams like Anchor are offering kind of allow you a little more flexibility, a little more liquidity when you stake and you still earn yield. So that's really exciting. And and yeah,
If
so
I
before,
can just add on that, I think that's an important point. Like I guess many of you are familiar, right, with proof of work and proof of stake, right? And proof of stake is basically solving one issue of proof of work, which is energy inefficiency, right? And with the delegated proof of stake, we're solving one issue of proof of stake, which is difficult access to staking, right? Which is usually very technical to run a validator node. So when you delegate, it makes it a little bit easier. However, there is still an issue of for proof of stake and delegated proof of stake, which is what we call the capital inefficiency problem, right? So it's for us, it's not only about providing liquidity; it is more about providing a solution for the capital inefficiency of proof of stake. So ultimately, our vision with Ankr StakeFi is that users should not be restricted to choose between staking and yield farming, right? They should be able to get both, right? And they should be able to unstake and get, so basically sell their liquid staking at any part, but liquidity is only a part of the capital inefficiency problem. We believe that you should be able to collateralize your liquid staking, right? And you should be able to have what we call composable passive income. So it's basically getting multiple layer of rewards on top of your staking rewards instead of choosing staking Avalanche or yield farming Avalanche tokens with other tokens, right? So ultimately, that's what we're trying to build, and I think it's also very interesting is that um, when you yield farm Avalanche bonds and all other liquid staking tokens, is that you have the benefit to have low impermanent loss strategies, right? Because when you provide liquidity to Avalanche bonds and Avalanche token, well, basically, it is intrinsically the same, right? It is staked Avalanche versus Avalanche. So the price should not have like a very big difference. So I think the opportunity to have low impermanent loss liquidity mining strategies is also quite unique and very specific to liquid staking. And these kind of low risk strategies used to be only for other tokens like US dollar stablecoin pairs like USDC DAI or REN BTC and REP BTC, right? So that opens up like a new, let's say, crypto asset class, liquid staking, right? Where you have brand new yield farming opportunities. And yeah, we're basically now trying to expand from Ethereum to other blockchains, and we started with Avalanche, so we're very excited about that journey, basically.
No, that's a great explanation of the power of the products that you're offering. So I really appreciate you digging into that and explaining to our listeners, why use the Ankr bonds instead of just straight up staking or as a validator. I think it's also very powerful, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about your team and also, why Avalanche first as the first expansion from Ethereum. So let's talk about your team a little bit and in the project. Can you tell me, how did Ankr form? Who's working on it right now? Give us a little bit of info.
Yeah, sure. So at Ankr, we basically have like two main product lines, but originally we're like a Web3 infrastructure provider. So the expertise of Ankr is really about the nodes, right? And when we talk about the nodes, there is two main category of nodes, which is the full nodes, which usually developers need to be able to build decentralized applications on top of that, or crypto analytics platforms. They need to collect information from the blockchain so that they can give it to the users in a convenient way, and do charts and all of that. And the other part is the validator nodes, right? Is really enabling the staking experience. And for all blockchains, you need to have a validator node, right? And then in some of them, you have then delegators or not. However, we realize that handling nodes, it is becoming increasingly commoditized, and we felt the need to provide a superior product. So for the full nodes, we then did what we can call maybe a vertical integration. We built APIs on top of it, right? So now part of our Ankr audience and part of our team is really focused on helping developers to build decentralized applications on top of our APIs, and we offer more than 10 blockchains. So you can build as a developer decentralized applications on Ethereum, on Avalanche, on Polygon, and other blockchains, which makes it very convenient for the developer who does not need to run its own full node, right? So you remove part of that task so that it can focus on creating his protocol or platform. And for staking nodes or validator nodes, then we created in December liquid staking, right? And we started with Ethereum because the use case was very obvious. Stake Ethereum, get staking rewards, but you cannot unstake for the moment. So the main feature is liquidity, and that's why the DeFi ecosystem and industry started to use that term of liquid staking. So basically, yeah, that's our two main pillars, right? It is the APIs with developers as main source of partnerships for Ankr, and then we have Ankr StakeFi, which is about helping users to get access to staking rewards in a convenient way through liquid staking.
That's really exciting, and yeah, it's just so cool to see projects like yours kind of specialize in this space and provide these offerings that previously weren't around, and kind of pioneer, making staking easier for users and more kind of appetizing for investors to get in there, earn yield, and also participate in DeFi. That's really powerful to me. And so, can you
Yeah.
kind of share why Avalanche? You know, you were very successful on Ethereum prior to this, and then I think you start to look around and just tell me a little bit about why Avalanche and how that's been for you guys.
So actually, we took the decision about Avalanche. It was in Q1 of this year. So I think like one of the advantages of Avalanche when we took the decision is like we really believed in the potential of Avalanche, but it was not yet one of, let's say, the major blockchains that the DeFi community was using right at the time. I will say that most of users were going after Binance Smart Chain and then Polygon, and we decided to stick to Avalanche because we really believe that it has a decent amount of decentralized exchanges, which had very low TVL in the beginning, but we found the blockchain like very innovative, and so then we just started to build up our product on top of Avalanche. And what is very, I will say, unique when we started to work with Avalanche is that for the first time, we will need to create liquid staking with an elastic supply, meaning that with Ethereum, you stake and that's it, right? So, but with Avalanche, we needed to create a brand new dynamic, which is you stake, but then you can unstake as well, right? So when you unstake, you give back your liquid staking, so your Avalanche bond. You need to give it back to Ankr, and then depending on the end date of the validator nodes that we have basically two validator nodes, right? They run for 56 days, so about 2 months, and they start at a 28 days interval. So basically, you have a liquidity window every 28 days. So if you will, for example, unstake your Avalanche bond right now, the next validator node will start in 6 days. So in 6 days, you will get back your liquidity if you unstake Avalanche bond, and you will get the liquidity at fair value. So currently, yeah, you could potentially buy Avalanche bond, like for example, at well, actually, you could buy it at a bit more than 2% on Pangolin, and then you can unstake, and in 6 days you get basically 2% more. So that's what we call like an arbitrage opportunity. The thing is that then it depends on how long you need to wait for that arbitrage opportunity to fulfill. But if you wait, I mean, 2 days, if you wait 6 days to make 2%, that's quite a nice gain, I will say. So as liquid staking on Avalanche will increase, then those opportunities will also increase in the future. So the elastic nature of liquid staking on Avalanche is something that is very specific to Avalanche, and that's actually something we're pretty exciting about because that opens up then some more advanced users, right, for these liquid staking. So it's no longer about you stake and you wait and that's it, or you do a bit of yield farming, right, to get a bit more yield. There is other possibilities, right? So you can try to buy the Avalanche bonds when they are traded at the discount, and then you unstake. And then I will say that the next thing that we're planning for Avalanche liquid staking, it will be something that we call instant liquidity pools. So currently we're charging only 2% fee on the staking rewards, which is the minimum that validators actually charge for staking. And then with the instant liquidity pools, we're actually going to keep in instant liquidity pools some Avalanche tokens. So we're planning 3% of the total Avalanche allocated to us. And then for Ankr token holders, they will have exclusive access to that instant liquidity pool. So basically, if they manage to buy some Avalanche bonds at a discount, they could swap it instantly at fair value instead of waiting the end date of the validator node. So that's something that will provide what we call a perfect arbitrage opportunity, which is a risk-free immediate gain without needing to wait, right, a few days until you get your unstaking completed. Another thing that we are planning to do as well is then to bridge the Avalanche bond from Avalanche to Ethereum. So that should also make easier access for people on Ethereum network that want to potentially, stake with Avalanche, but they don't want to go through the process of experiencing all the process of having an Avalanche wallet and how to stake and all of that. So they could just buy an Avalanche bond on Ethereum network potentially in the future. But for that, we need to have a bit more staked tokens and circulating supply for Avalanche bonds, so that then it is big enough to have multiple liquidity pools, not only on Avalanche, but also on other networks. And that, again, will open up arbitrage opportunities, right? You could buy potentially let's say on Pangolin, right, Avalanche bonds, and then you bridge it to Ethereum, and then you sell it at a higher price, maybe on Uniswap. So that will be another type of arbitrage opportunity that will be enabled in the Ankr StakeFi ecosystem.
That is really exciting. I like the idea of bridging it over to Ethereum to allow people to get some exposure to the Avax staking without having to figure out how to get over here and actually use the ecosystem here. I think that's really powerful because Avalanche is getting popular. Investors do want exposure, and the more places they can get it, the better it is for the investors and for the ecosystem. And
Yes, definitely. And I think something that is very important for delegated proof of stake blockchains is that with Ethereum, there is an issue, right, where large liquid staking providers, they rely usually on a limited number of nodes. So for our Ethereum liquid staking, for instance, we went through quite a complex process because we are originally a node provider, right? We were offering simple staking nodes in the beginning, right, in an easy way. So we have more than 200 node providers for our Ethereum liquid staking, which is quite a lot. But for Avalanche, I think it is much easier, right, to ensure that type of decentralization on how your staked tokens are staked, because you can just delegate to multiple validators, right? So we started only with two because it's just the beginning. But imagine if you have 100 million of staked, so $100 million of staked Avalanche. Obviously, that will not fit in only two validator nodes. So you will potentially have 20, 30, 40 validator nodes. And then it will be up to governance, right, to define the selection criteria of what is a good validator for Ankr StakeFi in the context of Avalanche staking. Is it validator nodes that charge minimum fee? Is it validator nodes that have run their nodes without any issue historically, right? So there is multiple criteria that can be incorporated in there. So I will say it's something that is relatively easy to scale, and the more it scales, the more decentralized it becomes, right?
definitely, definitely, and it's good to see that you have the governance process in place too. I think it's important to listen to the community and kind of drive decisions well with a lot of input. And so I just wanted to comment on the fact that your team and your project were looking at Avalanche way earlier than all the Avalanche rush started. I think there's a lot of respect to teams like yours that did due diligence and figured out that this is a good place to build prior to them announcing all the incentives and a new bridge. Definitely cool that you were here way early. And can you tell us, just share a little bit about what that's been like? Being here pre Avalanche Rush versus post Avalanche Rush, has that changed your user base and how much work you have to do here at all?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting process because it was the first time for Ankr that we go outside our comfort zone somehow, like Ethereum. And usually when we created some products, we could just expect our community to use the products. And now with Avalanche, it's obviously a bit more difficult in the way where there is some um, learning curve, right, to move from Ethereum to Avalanche, and convince our existing user base to try out other chains. And obviously, we're trying to do that, but ultimately, we cannot expect all Ankr users, to try out Avalanche and Polygon and Polkadot and all these other chains that we plan to support in the future with liquid staking as well. So it is important that we reach out, to different blockchain communities. So over the last few months, obviously we got in touch with you guys and with DEXs in general, right? Because that's the first step when you launch liquid staking, is like you need liquidity, right? So I think it is also a good opportunity for us because Ankr is not necessarily well known in the Avalanche community. So it is very interesting for us to convince our existing users to try out Avalanche, but at the same time to try to reach out to brand new communities to try out liquid staking with Avalanche, which is we believe positive for the Avalanche ecosystem, but obviously also positive for us because new users get to know Ankr.
Definitely, definitely. I think you guys are very well known now. And I think a lot of people are aware that Ankr is big in the space and that it is an option to do the Ankr bonds for staking. And I encourage any validators, delegators out there, people interested in staking, to take a look at what Ankr is building. It's a very powerful product that it makes financial sense for a lot of people to use. And so we've covered kind of Ankr's bond product. We've covered the team and why they came to Avalanche. Filipe, I'm interested in your opinion on kind of the multi-chain world. And for anyone listening, we're going to open this up to questions after we get through our topics. So if you have questions, we can add you as a speaker to ask myself or Filipe. But Filipe, tell us what you see in the landscape right now with all of these L1s, L0s gaining popularity.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I think now, obviously, there is more and more blockchains that are competing with Avalanche, and I think now DeFi users really have the choice, right, to try out whatever blockchain is more convenient for them. And I think in that multi-chain world, we want to make sure that users can be present in those multiple blockchains. So for developers with our APIs, we're doing that by offering API on multiple blockchains so that developers can easily move their existing projects to other chains, right? Instead of looking out for different API providers. And I think it is kind of the same for StakeFi and for liquid staking, right? Instead of expecting people to go through that learning curve of trying out different blockchains, which is required then to be able to stake, right? We want to make sure that our liquid staking solutions are multi-chain so that you can get access to Avalanche staking not only on Avalanche but on Ethereum or on Polygon, and then the same with Polygon liquid staking. Why should it be only on Polygon or Ethereum? It could also be on BSC or on Avalanche. So I think here that will depend on the demand of the community as well, right? But I think the future really is going to be democratizing liquid staking, enabling people to get access easily to staking, even if it's not in its original chain, and most importantly, allow people to earn more rewards on top of staking rewards so that they don't feel like they need to choose between staking and yield farming.
Right, right, and that's an accurate interpretation of the current landscape. I think that there's so many places that users can go to invest, earn yield, to participate. I think it's important for projects like you to recognize that and build the tools. You're right. It's really great to hear that you're expanding the tools you've made available to developers so they can kind of hook into your ecosystem at Ankr. And so I just have one more question I want to cover before we open it up to the audience to ask any questions they had. And that's kind of just about working with partners on Avalanche. So obviously, Pangolin and Ankr, we're going to work closely together, and it's going to be really great. But what other partners do you look for, with your product offerings, and are you going to be working with anybody else on Avalanche?
Yeah, great question. So for Avalanche liquid staking, we are working also with Lydia Finance, which released the farming pool for Avalanche Bond and Avalanche liquidity pool. So that's great because it's kind of really shows like the potential of like yield farming Avalanche bonds on Avalanche. And yeah, the rewards are quite nice. So I mean, feel free to discover it by yourself. But so we hope in the future that we will be able to have something similar eventually with Pangolin. I think that will be great. And we also started to have like other talks with other exchanges, but I will say that so far the ones that have been more receptive to like collaborate for the, let's say, the interest of the community rather than self-interest. I will say that it's definitely Pangolin and Lydia Finance have been very great partners, I will say. And then the next step that will be to contact vault providers. So because then you can automate, right, those yield farming strategies. So that will be the next, let's say, round of partners that we're going to contact, and not necessarily contact partners or providers, sorry, that are already on Avalanche. It can also be vault providers that are not yet on Avalanche, and explain them that they should consider go to Avalanche, right? And we have the technology to help them, right? We can provide them the APIs to make the move a little bit easier, right? So that's something that we're also trying to do. One of the platforms, for example, is ONX Finance. They've been doing building up interesting products on top of our Ethereum liquid staking solutions, such as vaults, uh, lending as well. So yeah, we've been in talks with them to try to convince them to consider Avalanche as their next chain, to go to after Ethereum.
Very cool, very cool, and yeah, I really like Lydia Finance. They're very supportive of the ecosystem, so I'm glad that they're giving your project support and it's working well. And so, before we just ask for some audience questions, Felipe, were there any topics or questions that you wanted to cover that we didn't talk about yet?
I think we made the round right about Avalanche liquid staking and yeah, Ankr in Avalanche.
Okay, great. So that was a great chat. We learned about Ankr, the liquid staking, the bonds, and kind of their vision for expanding into Avalanche. We'll open it up to some audience questions now. If you have questions, please hit the request speaker button, and we'll let you on to ask a question and have a chat. Any questions out there? Could be for Ankr, could be for Pangolin. Just want to make sure everyone comes out of this with a solid understanding and no questions. Okay, well, I guess we gave a pretty good explanation of how everything works. And before we wrap up today, I appreciate everyone for coming out and appreciate Filipe for sharing all of his knowledge with us. Filipe, do you want to just wrap up with kind of what we can get excited about, what's on the roadmap coming this year or next year?
Um, well, do you mean about Avalanche liquid staking or Ankr itself?
Oh, just anything you want to share to leave the audience with, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So for Avalanche liquid staking, I think you can expect to have more liquidity on Avalanche network in general, more dexes, more yield farming opportunities, which then unlocks other use cases on top of Avalanche bonds, such as lending. That's let's say a use case that can be replicated rather easily, right, from Ethereum liquid staking into Avalanche liquid staking. Um, and then for Ankr itself, I will say that you can expect to be able to trade Ankr not only on Ethereum and centralized exchanges, obviously, but on Avalanche network as well. So that's something we're working on, and then we're also then going obviously multi-chain with Ankr StakeFi. So next week we're going to release Polkadot Internet Bonds, which will follow with Kusama Internet Bonds on October. That will be Polygon Internet Bonds. We're also going to make an interesting announcement about let's say in October about Ankr itself. So obviously, as you saw, like as a Web3 infrastructure provider, it is becoming increasingly complex to manage, right? All these products, right? And we want to make sure that those products and that infrastructure is as decentralized as possible and obviously automated, right? So that will require us to to build up a solution that I think the Ankr community will be quite excited about. So we will release more information towards the end of next month. And then we have also other products such as Parachain bonds for Kusama and Polkadot. And I think by the end of the year, we will start to see through partners more use cases on top of liquid staking, and people will realize that actually there is really plenty of solutions, and it is an ecosystem in itself. Trading liquid staking and participating as a staker, as a trader, as a liquidity provider, as a yield farmer, or even as a lender providing supply for more advanced traders that want to, let's say, boost their yield with liquid staking.
That is a very exciting roadmap. Thank you for sharing that. And I see we have one request for a question. I just want to let them on, make sure they got their question answered before we wrap up today. Hey, Sammy, how are you? Thanks for hopping on. Do you have a question for us? Okay, maybe it was just a misclick. So, yeah, I think we had a really good conversation today. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all our listeners for listening.
Hello?
And definitely. Oh, okay, here we go. Here we go. Hey, Sammy, how are you? Maybe some audio issues, but Sammy, if you have questions, please just ping us in Telegram, and we'll get your questions
Hello?
sir.
Hello guys, can
Oh,
you hear me?
hey, yes. What's your question, Sammy? How are you?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear us? Okay, that's definitely connection issues. Anyway, I'm just gonna wrap up today. Thank you so much, Felipe, for coming on. We had a great chat. Definitely check out Ankr and everything they have to offer. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.